Today we're going to discuss the distance and midpoint formulas. The distance and midpoint formulas are written at the top of your screen right here. D standing for distance. So it goes like this. D equals the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1, parentheses squared, plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1, parentheses squared. The midpoint formula, m equals x sub 2 plus x sub 1 divided by 2, and y sub 2 plus y sub 1 divided by 2. So we are dealing with, obviously, points from a coordinate plane, an x and a y. And we're dealing with just more than one point, hence the sub numbers 1 and 2. So we'll have 1 point or one ordered pair, and we should have another one. We've dealt with this before, dealing with slope, so it's kind of coming back again with the distance and midpoint formulas. Now I've taken a snapshot. I read that archaeologists will use, just for an example, there's many video game programmers, etc., but archaeologists will use this to label where they found certain things and finding the distance. All you have to do on anything that you're dealing with is slap a coordinate plane on top, slap a grid on top, and you've got a scale going this direction, and I've cut off the bottom there, but this is an example. You know, it would be easy to go from maybe this point right here to this point here. Well, you'll see the scale is 20, so let's say this is like 20 miles. So 20 miles going up, but this is where it would become a little bit difficult going diagonal here. But with the distance formulas and the midpoint formulas, according to what you're wanting to discuss, if you've got a coordinate plane as something to go after, then you are good to go. So let's get into some problems that have some points. Maybe something like this to begin with. Find the distance, keyword, between the point 24 and 10, negative 4. Write the answer in simplest radical form and also in decimal form, rounding to the nearest tenth. Okay, so we got a couple things that they want us to do right here. So the distance formula. Anytime I'm dealing with the distance formula, I will write it down like this to begin with. My square root, my parentheses, and my plus sign, making sure both parentheses are squared with the minus signs in the middle. So this is what the distance formula looks like with no values in whatsoever. Now from here, I need to establish what is my first point and my second point. I'm going to say this is my first point, and this is my second point over here. So it says we should take the y coordinate from the second point, which would be my negative 4, and place that here. And the y coordinate from the first point, which is a positive 4. In this parenthesis, it says to take the x coordinate from the second point minus the x coordinate from the first. So this is what it looks like. Now, to get this number, because all underneath this radical, to find out what this is, I am going to follow my, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, order of operations. Here we go. First, parentheses. We need to figure out what is in parentheses to begin with. Let's go ahead and do that here. Negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8. And these parentheses, 10 minus 2 is 8. So now I've done what's in parentheses. Now it's time to work on the exponents. So here we go. Negative 8 squared, that's negative 8 times negative 8, which is a positive 64. Over here, 8 times 8, which is 64 as well. So 64. Now, do we have any multiplication? No. Do we have any division? No, but we do have addition. So let's go with 64 plus 64, and that gives us the square root of 128. Now, we're trying to find the distance here, and now we're getting down to where we could give an answer. So let's go with the first one that they ask us to do. Write in simplest radical form. All right, looking at 128, let me find two numbers multiplied together where one is a perfect square. Let's go with 4 times 32. 4 is my perfect square, and the square root of 4 is 2. So now I have 2 square root of 32, but I need to ask myself, is this radicand right here, is it simplest form? Can you break this down into two numbers, one being a perfect square? Yes, we can. We can break 32 down into 16 times 2. Now, the square root of 16 is 4, but look here. We have a number on the outside as well as one prior. What do we do with these two numbers? You're right, let's multiply. And 4 times 2 is 8. And the only thing down here that we've left in our square root or our radical is the 2. So we have written the distance in simplest radical form. Now it also asks for us to write it in decimal form. So go right back here, plug that into your calculator. Square root of 128. And if you round to the nearest tenth, check me on this one, you should get 11.3. So I've given two answers, one in decimal form and one in simplest radical form. So make sure that you pay attention to the directions when you are given particular problems to work. Let's go ahead and work the midpoint formula. And we'll use the same points, 2 and 4 and 10 and -4. So the midpoint formula, this is what I'll do for this one, parentheses and a comma, because in essence we're finding a point in the middle. We're finding a point in the middle, so our answer has to also be a point or an ordered pair. So how do we find this? Well, we know we're going to take the x coordinates and divide them by 2, and the y coordinates and divide them by 2, as well as add them together. So this is what the formula looks like without any values in there whatsoever. Now let's do this. The first point or the first coordinate in an ordered pair are the x coordinate. So let's take the x's, which is 2 and 10, and fill them in. And let's also take the y, which is here, 4 and -4. Okay, so I filled in my values, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to figure out the number on top and then divide it by 2. So let's work with our x. 2 plus 10 is 12 divided by 2. Over here, 4 plus a -4 is 0 divided by 2. Now we can clean this up. Sometimes, you know, fractions are okay. If it ended up being like 1/2, or you could reduce down to another fraction like 3/4 or something, that's totally fine. But this can simplify into one whole number. 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 0 divided by 2 is 0. So if we had plotted these 2 points, something like 2 and 4 and 10 and -4 way down here, then in the middle would be something like 6, 0. So the midpoint is used with 2 points, and the distance formula is used with 2 points as well. So just plug it into a formula. So let's make sure that we memorize those, and we should be good to go to work problems. See you in class.